if I may, introduce
I'm just getting
somebody that's been something of a unofficial mentor to me and lots of people in the assistive technology world and the deaf and hard of hearing world. This is Laura Plummer with West Outreach again. Did I say that right? Is that okay?
Outreach Services.
There we go. Outreach Services.
Outreach Services.
Yeah, so we're very happy to have her here, and so take it away.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm going to make sure my mic is up close enough for me. All right, there we go. Did somebody just steal chocolate out of my bag over there? Or, oh, I stole your chair. Is that it? Sorry. Okay. All right. I'm not getting this very... Is that close enough? Are you guys able to hear okay? All right. Okay, well, thank you for that. Oh.
I broke the TV. All right.
Well, I always say that it's not an assistive technology presentation unless something doesn't work or gets broken. So we were right on track with almost the broken TV. So thank you for that introduction, Mason. My name is Laura Plummer, and I am the Technology Services Coordinator for the Outreach Program, or Outreach Services for Deaf, Hard of Hearing, and Deaf Blind. I probably will stumble a little on our name a couple times because we just kind of finalized a new version of our name yesterday. So we are here to talk about assistive technology and hearing loss. So I know several faces in the audience and where you are from, and mostly from the IL world. Who else do I have in the room? ADRCs. Okay. Iris. Any DVR? Okay. Any educators? Who did I miss? Or did we? DHS staff? Or? Okay. Perfect. Oh, Danny, yes. I thought I recognized you. Great. I need to talk to you later. We have a conference coming up. All right. So I always like to start with a little bit of history. And so on the screen, we've got several pieces of technology. And so on the far left, can anyone tell me what that beast of machine happens to be? Cindy, you can't guess on these. I'm sorry. I can't throw chocolate that far. And you cannot guess. I think Brian guessed it. Did you get it right? Oh. Oh.
No, he cannot guess.
No. All right, what is the device on the far left of our screen? Anyone? Oh, he's not that old, but do you know what it is? All right. It is a TTY. Look at that. I didn't have to throw the chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
Yes, it is. Dark chocolate is what we're giving away today. It reduces your blood pressure, and it's Friday. So this is the TTY. This is actually what all of us have to thank for every text message that we send, every cell phone call we make, every email we send. This was the first text-based telecommunications transmission. So it has definitely shrunk a lot from those days.
There's no way to hide that ugly thing in a house. Let me just say that. I have.
You had one that size in your home?
That was the very first one we ever owned.
Oh, wow, you get chocolate.
Dating my husband.
You're dating your husband, that's right. I would never guess that you would have had that, no. All right. So then we move along, and what do we have up in the very top middle? Who's gonna admit they owned one of these? It's a brick phone. I will actually admit in this private crowd that was my first cell phone, that large. Yeah. So think about a brick times 2, and the same weight as a brick. And then it came with this antenna on a cord that you'd roll the window down, and then you'd put it on top of the car. Yeah, it was awesome. All right. Then down below, any guesses on what we've got down here? Yes, one of the first modems that existed. So you would take the handset and put it onto this little coupler, just like an old TTY. There you go. All right. So then we have some of our first hearing aids, the ear funnel, and one of the first text pagers. So this was a T9 pager. And so that is how we used, that's how all of our word prediction was created for our first cell phones as we're texting. All right. So moving away from history, I just wanted to touch a little bit on, Stacy covered hearing aids wonderfully this morning. So I always include sort of the whole spectrum of size to give you a nice perspective of tiny hearing aids on up to the larger ones. And there's pros and cons of all of them, and she went through a lot of that. So I just wanted to set that table, and we're going to talk about some features in hearing aids and how that interacts with technology. So all of the knowledge you gained this morning, you're going to actually kind of apply it a little bit as we look at tools and solutions. And if you have questions as we go along, please feel free to raise your hand and ask away. So within all of those hearing aids, we have you can have different features. So you can have microphones that go forward, microphones that go backwards. We've got direct audio input, which is what we see in schools frequently. So it's a hearing aid that has this little boot that will attach, and it can be then used to hear what the teacher is saying. And we'll talk a little more on that. Newer, we have Bluetooth capabilities within our hearing aids, and then telecoils, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about telecoils. So just be aware that we have all those sizes we saw, and not every feature is available in every size, okay? So the little teeny tiny ones, those ones you can't see, do you think they're going to have all those features in them? No. So just keeping that in mind as we go through, that not every size will have every feature. All right. So TELECOIL, what is it? How many have heard of a TELECOIL? Good. How many know what it is and what it does? You should be raising your hand, ma'am.
I do, but I didn't know if you wanted.
You can raise your hand. You can show off on that one. This is not a chocolate question, so. All right, so the TELECOIL, that is a piece of circuitry that can be within a hearing aid. So it may or may not be in those little teeny tiny ones. So it's about the size of a grain of rice. So on the screen, I've got a dime up here that shows, and then the TELECOIL is circled in red. So you can see exactly the size of what that TELECOIL might be. And then here's a more close-up version. So it just looks like a bunch of little copper wire wrapped around, and that is a TELECOIL. So it's a piece of coil wire, and it is designed to allow the hearing aid to pick up acoustic signal or auditory signal from a variety of pieces of equipment. It's called TELECOIL because our first equipment it worked with was a telephone. And so that is why we call it TELECOIL to this day. So when it comes to a TELECOIL, and remember, not all hearing aids have them, and even if they are in that hearing aid, more times than not, it won't be activated. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and this is where your knowledge and advocacy can come into play for the consumers that you're working with. So when they put that TELECOIL inside the hearing aid, it's going to the position of where it's placed within the hearing aid matters. So sound will be able to be picked up better sometimes if it's horizontal and sometimes if it's vertical. So it really depends on how that hearing aid is designed, how those engineers have pieced all the circuitry together. What happens most often is it's placed at an angle. So it tries to get the benefit of horizontal and vertical all together. Now the TELECOIL for most hearing aids has to be activated. So it can live inside the hearing aid, and the customer can leave the audiologist or the hearing aid dealer and never even know that it's in there because it has never been turned on or activated.
So when you talk about the position, what is it where is it in relation to the hearing aid? Does it matter if you're standing up or laying down? Does that matter with how it's positioned?
Not really. It's more in how is it placed within there and how it interacts with the rest of the circuitry. But good point. Because if it hears better horizontal, then you just lay down for everything you do. I'm in the office. I have to lay down because my telecoil only works this way. I like that. All right. So, yes.
I've run into this issue maybe a dozen times where the consumer is not told by the audiologist nor the vendor that
Right.
there was a T-coil
Yep.
motor even available. And I'm just frustrated as heck because it doesn't take all that long to at least explain that it's there.
Right.
You know?
Yep, and that's why the information that we're going to go through today is all the information and the talking points you need to give your consumers to self-advocate for that.
The consumer says, I just met with somebody last week, and I said, do your hearing aids have TELECOIL? And she says, I don't know.
Right. That's why I said 99% of the time, it's unfortunate that it's not activated and it's not then programmed. So there's a couple steps here. So we need that telecoil to be activated, meaning it's ready to go. And then we also need, within the hearing aids, we end up with programs. So people have a program for a quiet environment. They have a program for a loud environment. They might have a program for music. You can have 5 or 6 different programs within a hearing aid, and the person changes those either with a button on the hearing aid itself or with a streamer. Where is my streamer now? I've got it laying here somewhere. Or changes it, or basically with a remote. So they can change. So you leave the classroom and you go to the library. You might want to have a setting for a quiet environment. Or you go to the basketball game and you certainly don't want to have it set up for a classroom setting at a basketball game. And then another program can be this telecoil program. So whether or not the hearing aid provider, be it an audiologist or a hearing aid dealer, whether they activate it and whether they put it in a program. And then this third step is it needs to be manual. And we're going to review this a couple times here. Telecoils, I'm going to just go ahead and jump in here. Okay. So telecoils will work with phones. They will work with listening devices. They will work with Bluetooth earpieces to hear your phone. But that telecoil has to be in a manual mode. So you have to be able to turn it on and turn it off, either with that button or with the remote. What happens for many individuals who are older and they go to get their hearing aid, that provider is all worried about confusing them and giving them too many choices. So what happens is they may or may not activate the telecoil. They may or may not set up a program. And lastly, if they do set it up, they might put it on automatic. And the reason it would be on automatic is because they think they're only going to use it with a telephone, like a landline. And in an automatic mode, that telecoil, it has to be near that signal for it to turn on. So you pick up the phone, your auto telecoil will turn on. But what happens if you're leaning or you're moving around as you talk? The telecoil goes in and out, on and off. So those are those 3 things: active, programmed, manual. Okay. So if you learn nothing about telecoils today but that's what I want you to learn. And there's 2 settings for telecoils. You might have one that's called a microphone/telecoil. That gives the person the ability to still hear environmental sounds, but then they also get that TELECOIL signal. The other way is TELECOIL only. So if I have TELECOIL on and I have a neck loop plugged into my MP3 player to listen to tunes, and if I'm in TELECOIL only mode and you start talking to me, nope, I'm just going to listen to my music all happy. So there's a difference in how those are set up. And I worked with a woman who was in an office setting that it was an open environment. So she was actually like a case manager for home care. So there's 4 desks in the office, and she's on the phone a lot. So we figured out her phone solutions, but then the audiologist put that TELECOIL in an M/T. So yeah, she could hear on the phone, but she still heard all of her coworkers on their phones. So we needed to get it set up only on TELECOIL, so she only heard her phone. Does that make sense? Okay. There'll be a quiz later on what you need to know. All right. So we've reviewed these. These are the common mishaps. It's not installed, it's not activated, it's not auto. And then finally, there's been no training on it. Because what can happen is if someone changes their hearing aid to TELECOIL, but they don't have a clue that that's what it is, what do they think when they hit that? What do they think, Catherine? That the hearing aid turns off. Because they get to TELECOIL and they're just running through those choices of programs, and there's no signal going to it, so they just think their hearing aid's busted or off. So.
I also find they don't usually know what the programs are.
They like a TV. You're just going channel to channel to channel because you don't have no idea what channels are what. So the best providers will give that person a card or a piece of paper that says program 1 is this, program 2, program 3, etc. So that's something that you can tell the individuals, your consumers, like go back and ask for it. Or if you have a release of information and you're helping them with technology, you can call that provider and say, because somewhere in their file is a list of what those programs are. It just needs to get into their hands so they know. Okay. So you have a TELECOIL, but then this newfangled thing called Bluetooth. You're clapping your hands. You like Bluetooth? Are you the one in the grocery store? No. Walking around, talking to yourself? Okay. It's okay if you are. Oh, so you're connected in your car. Okay. All right. So Bluetooth is basically another option that can come into play, and I just need to find, I think I had too much in my hands, I set it down. So Bluetooth can be incorporated within our hearing aids, and most commonly it's within the streamer, which is a small device that it can serve as a remote control as well. And I have one, but I don't know where I put it, so I'll dig it out maybe afterwards to pass around. So people think, oh, well, I don't need that TELECOIL. I got Bluetooth, and I just want to go to my phone and be good. So what happens is with that streamer, which is sort of I'll use this just as an example. This is not a streamer in some ways. So if I have a streamer, and that's provided by the hearing aid manufacturer. So if you have a Phonak hearing aid, you have a Phonak streamer. Compilot is their name brand. So you can't have a Starkey streamer and a Phonak hearing aid. It has to be that same brand because they've got proprietary wireless communication between the hearing aid and that streamer. So then that streamer, I can change my programs, and then I can Bluetooth it to my phone, to my computer, whatever I need, so that the sound comes right from my phone through the streamer to my hearing aid. Okay. So everybody thinks that's great, but it's only one method of hearing. So you still need that telecoil in case, just like we have more than one pair of shoes. We need different methods, and plan A and plan B. So with Bluetooth, you've also got, it's just a fraction of a nanosecond delay as it transmits through that Bluetooth. So when we're working with someone that's trying to process sound and process information, for some individuals, that Bluetooth processing time is going to cause miscommunication or misunderstanding. So it's a great solution, but it does not replace the need for the telecoil and other technology. So this room is looped right now. And I'm assuming that this system is connected to the loop system. Oh.
He's our DHS guy.
Oh, he wouldn't know, okay. So what that means is in this room, there's a wire going around this perimeter. You can't see it. And if the microphone that I'm using is connected up to that, if you came in here with a hearing aid and a telecoil, you wouldn't even, you could just sit down, change to telecoil, and have the sound come directly from my microphone. I'd be right in your head. That's how that would work. You would have to, look at this.
But Laura, then does that mean that,
Excuse me.
that they couldn't have a conversation with the person next to them at the same time? Would they have to click it on and off?
The question she asks, and well, so if she came in here with a telecoil hearing aid and wanted to hear me, her question was, well then, would that prevent her from communicating with people next to her? That would all depend on if your telecoil was telecoil only, or if it was a microphone / telecoil. If it were microphone /, sure. And sometimes people will turn a telecoil on one ear and keep the regular mode on the other ear. It can be variable on what that person chooses and how they hear best, and whether they've had the training to know how to do that. All right. So we're going to talk about assisted listening devices, and that's why we went through all the things about hearing aids and telecoils and Bluetooth, because that's how we connect to assistive listening devices. So on the screen, we've got, on the right, I've got different input methods to your ears. Earbuds, headphones, neck loops, earpieces. That's how we get the sound from whatever we're using into the ears. On the other side are the categories of listening devices that we're going to talk about. So we've got hardwired, we've got wireless, we've got infrared, and we've got loop. I had a lady I worked with that used to, for her to understand it, she referred to those as the hardwired ones, like a pocket talker. Those were her AM devices. And then the personal listening device was her FM device. So that's how she could get her head around it. Keeping in mind that all of these input methods can work with all of those. And the one, that word neck loop, is how we connect to a hearing aid. If you don't have a hearing aid, you use earbuds, headphones, or an earpiece. If you have a hearing aid, then you can benefit from that neck loop. And that neck loop was like what I just put around my neck. And I'll pass this one around actually as we talk. So neck loops, they create a magic force field around your head, and it brings in whatever sound it's connected to the hearing aid. That is what? What do we have to have on our hearing aid? In manual mode. Good job, good job. So neck loops can be direct plug, or they can be Bluetooth. So I always believe when I'm making recommendations that people have both options available. Again, that just like shoes, you need more than one pair of shoes. If my Bluetooth neck loop suddenly loses its battery and dies, and I'm having to make phone calls, I better have a way of connecting still to my phone. And this little baby does not need a battery. It can plug right in, and it's a standard 3.5 millimeter plug, same as headphones, earbuds, goes into any audio output device. So this is a Williams sound. It's been around 100 million years. They're $49, and they last forever. So I'm just going to pass this around just so you can kind of see what a neck loop is. And Brian, you have a question?
Yeah, the new iPhone doesn't have that jack for the chargers, you know, so.
It has an adapter. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Do you need me to show you that? I have.
Sure.
Okay. All right. I'll grab it at the end. So what Brian was saying is, this is an iPhone 7. Anyone here have an iPhone 7 in here? Did you notice anything different about it? There's no headphone plug. It's gone. Inside the box, in case you didn't know it, came a little adapter. So it's a small adapter that plugs into the lightning port, and then your headphone plug can go into there. Okay. So, and the iPhone 8 still has lightning, but they're kind of going away from that. So I'm going to be curious. The iPhone 8 is actually magnetic charged, just like the watches. So we're having to continually evolve our interfaces with our technology based on how the industry goes. My fear is eventually it's going to be Bluetooth only. And I do have fear about that. Yeah.
Don't most smartphones now have TELECOIL mode already built into it? Like you can just turn it on and off within the settings?
The TELECOIL mode in here means that it will work with it, just like a landline would. Correct. Mm-hmm. But then you're still acoustically connected. And for some individuals, they need that direct wireless. Yes. The question was, what about that TELECOIL mode in your phone settings? Mm-hmm.
That just triggers it to turn on when you put your phone to your ear.
It just allows it to work just like a landline phone would allow. Because by law, landline phones have to have that feature in them. Yep. But for some people, it's still, no matter if you have that TELECOIL, it's finding the right position relative to where the microphone on the hearing aid is. Older hearing aids, the microphone is on the outside. And so you have people going like this. Then where's their voice go? You know, so it's a matter, that's why it's very individualized, those solutions for people. So if something doesn't have Bluetooth, and we want to connect to, say, this is a Bluetooth neck loop. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. So I'm passed around the plug-in. This is the Quattro. This is a Bluetooth neck loop. Okay, so I can wear it around my neck. I can pair it to my phone or my computer, and then I can be the person in the grocery store talking to myself about whatever. So this allows, again, it still is sending it to the TELECOIL part of the hearing aid, okay? But it's just doing it via Bluetooth. I'll pass this one around too. Right. So if something doesn't have Bluetooth and we want to connect to a Bluetooth neck loop, there are adapters. So this little Q-link will plug in, say if you had a laptop where the Bluetooth died or didn't have it, you can plug this right into there. Again, it's just a 3.5 millimeter, and then it creates Bluetooth. It's like a little magic Bluetooth creation right here. Called a dongle. D-O-N-G-L-E. But keep in mind, these neck loops will work with any audio device. So your little tiny iPod, your DVD player in the back seat for the kids, whatever. They plug in just like we would use headphones. All right. So moving on to the actual equipment for listening, we've got hardwired devices, the AM devices. The gold standard really is the pocket talker, and there's several models out. I think all the ILs have more than one. I don't know if any of the ADRCs have. They should, all in their AT kits, should have a pocket talker. These are great. They're all in one unit. So you can plug in a neck loop, you can use headphones, earbuds, whatever you need. But the sound is however close you are to that. So the ideal use for a hardwired device is one-to-one conversations, maybe listening to the television, maybe in the car. They're not designed for settings like this, but they're also much more affordable. They're under $150 versus FMs, which are significantly more. A newer product that is out are really, they're also called personal listening devices, and it's the Bean, is the one I have pictured here. So it resembles a smaller in the ear hearing aid. These will provide, they provide up to about, I think, 20 decibels, 18 to 20 decibels of volume. They are analog in nature in that they amplify everything. And some of them do have a TELECOIL on it. So you may get questions about these. They range anywhere from a couple hundred on up to $800 for the one with the TELECOIL. I've utilized one. I've had one in the past, have used it. I couldn't believe how loud I type because it amplifies everything. Like, wow, I'm a loud keyboarder. But it worked fairly. I have a mild loss in my left ear, so I was trying it out as a user in meetings. And I did find some benefit. And it's not going to replace a hearing aid, but it also might assist someone in understanding that, if this helps me a little bit, maybe what could a real hearing aid do for me? It could be kind of a bridge device.
Just an idea of the price on the Bean?
Yeah, they're anywhere from like 2 or 3 on up to about 7. Yeah, yes, it's 100. Yeah, they are in the, I have catalogs over here, so help yourself. Look at that. Thank you, Vanna, showing it off. All right. All right. So moving up the tech ladder, we get to FM systems. So these are wireless devices, and these are designed for communication across distance. So as the name implies, they go through walls. They are able to cover several hundred feet. They're used in churches, schools, meetings like this. And I have my personal favorites. There's numerous brands out there. And there's different features within them, but they do allow for that wireless listening. So the one that I will pass around is the Contigo FM. This device, number one, I like it because it looks cool. It's small. It has an edgy look to it. It doesn't look real industrial. And it also has 2 microphones. And each microphone has different settings. So how an FM works is you've got a transmitter. And this is what the speaker would wear. So I'll clip this on somewhere, somehow. And then you have a receiver. So 2 parts. No wires between us. So I plug in earbuds or headphones, and then I can listen to what the speaker is saying. There's also a microphone on this one. So for your question earlier, like how would you hear someone next to you? With this, you can control how loud I am by using one button, and then the microphone on here will pick up Pauline next to you. So for students, if the teacher gets really boring, they can just turn him down, turn up their friend, and away they go. So,
Do you have to use with the neck loop?
yes, you can plug a neck loop into it. You bet. So I'm going to plug this in. I'm going to turn it way down. Yes. These are about a couple hundred feet. Yeah. So if I put this on and I go use the restroom, whoever's got it on would hear that. Let's just put it this way. We won't do that.
Caption's on again.
Thank you. What model is that?
This is the Contigo FM. Yep, it's my favorite. Never had one break in 16 years, something like that. And it's rechargeable, and it goes 14 hours.
If I could just have you just wait 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
And we should be back.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Waiting for the captioner. Huh?
Says he's there.
Okay.
There.
I don't see it pop up yet. That screen is cracked. Did you do that?
Okay, try now.
Try now. Giving the interpreter some grief. Now the interpreter's not listening.
All right, there we go.
Okay. All right. So I've got this on my hand. Yeah, we can pass it. Yeah, just keep passing it around. I'm keeping track of what I'm passing around for theft later. All right. So another way we can do FM is through those streamers. And there's a lot of marketing being done about the Roger pen. Okay. This is a Phonak product. You can actually buy them on Amazon. And so I'm holding the transmitter now. I don't know, maybe it'll click. There we go. So if someone has a streamer that they've gotten with their hearing aid, it looks like this. And they can wear it around, their neck, just like I don't want to put anything else around my neck right now. I can change the programs in my hearing aid. This also has Bluetooth. So it'll go to my phone, and I'll be able to hear on it. It also can receive the signal from the Roger pen. So I could put the Roger pen over here, and whatever she says, I would be able to come into the streamer and go to my hearing aid. Okay. Roger pens are not a true FM system, but they're used a lot. They've got acceptability because it's just a pen laying there. It's nothing that stands out. But they don't transmit the same distance. They go about 40 feet. They are designed for speech, not things like music. I've got a teacher right now with an orchestra student, and they're trying to use a Roger pen as her mechanism, and they're not designed for music. It's to pick up speech. So there's pluses and minuses, but the Roger pen is a Phonak brand, so it has to be a Phonak. It's got to go. So there are other brands with streamers that have FM transmitters, and there is an actual Roger FM that can be used too. So, but just wanted to be aware of that product that's out there. I had a student last year going off to college, and she'd used a Roger, and I presented her the FM options. She thoroughly understood the transmission distances, the pros and the cons, but she still elected to, it was through DVR, she still elected to go with the Roger pen, even with the drawbacks, because she was comfortable with it. She knew how it sounded, but she was informed then of other options should that eventually not work for her. Then we have infrared devices. These are most often seen in movie theaters, and infrared is line of sight. So they can use some repeaters to bounce that light, but infrared is what your remote control is. So you cover your remote control, it's not going to change the channel. Same idea. And you can do these with NECKLOOPS as well, depending on the model. So when the question about the husband and the TV, was that you? It was you, yes. So you could get TV ears for your husband and have peace at home. Yes. Christmas is coming. Oh, I can't believe I just said Christmas or the holidays. I think the trees are already out in the stores, so the decor.
Do you know if that's still available when you order the CapTel? That used to be a deal. You'd get the TV ears with the CapTel.
Oh, I hadn't seen that.
It's been a while.
Okay, no, probably not, no. So loop systems, I already actually did describe these, but this is the symbol that you would see at a facility if there was a loop system available. All right. Now, it should be known, let's say someone has that hearing aid, but, or they don't have a hearing aid and they go to a loop facility and they still want to hear. Most of the time, they will have a receiver box that looks like that FM receiver I'm passing around. So someone without a telecoil or without a hearing aid, that's the people that go to the church and they pick up the headphones in the little box. That will pick up that signal of the loop in here if they didn't have the hearing aid. It kind of reverses the table. All right. And then there are some portable type loop systems, fully contained. This happens to be an example of a clipboard one. With these, you do have to be within a certain range. So I use this clipboard picture because it really shows, think about those people in the mall that are taking surveys with their clipboard. That would be like an ideal use for something like this, because you're going right up to somebody, asking a question, it can pick it up. But so at a workplace, if someone's customer service at a desk, and they need some assistance with hearing those customers, that might be an option. So any questions on that? I know it's a lot to go through, and then we're going to whiz through the rest here. Okay. So on the screen, I've just kind of did a capture of all the various ways that we can communicate related to hearing loss. All right. So we're going to jump into telecommunications. And on the screen, we've got I always look at things just kind of from low tech on up to high tech. It's kind of how the process of looking at technology solutions. So we've got simple things like inline amplifiers all the way up to relay captioning on your phone. So let me go back. One more. There we go. Oops. Jumping ahead. All right. So on the screen, I've got a variety of options up here that I'll just kind of walk through, and then I do have them here if anyone wants to have hands-on during the break. So honestly, one of my favorite devices looks the oldest up here. Anybody guess which one that is?
Adjust-a-tone?
The adjust-a-tone. I know. What year does that look like it was made? Maybe the 80s. Think 70s stereo, that's what it looks like. So, but this honestly is my favorite inline amplifier. Why? Because it's an equalizer. So I can really fine tune the high frequencies, the low pitches, because everyone has a different voice on the phone. So obviously these are not compatible with your iPhone. I use these more in landline or workplace settings. My most unique use for this was medical transcriptionist. So that was all computer-based, obviously now. And she's one of those adults that didn't know she had a hearing loss, but was failing at her job. So when we first met, we tried a pocket talker, and she couldn't believe how well that sounded. So we sent her to the audiologist, worked with DVR, got her hearing aids, then we sat down to look at the work site once she had those hearing aids with a TELECOIL that was activated and programmed and manual. And so we had difficulties, though, because of the medical transcription, and it was how many errors she was getting, things like that. So what we ended up doing is we patched this to the, with an audio, with a 3.5 millimeter patch cord, aux cord, and then we used a plug-in neck loop. And so then she was able to not only control the sound with that equalizer, but she actually had the sound card in the computer, the sound on the adjust-a-tone, the volume on the neck loop, and the adjustments in her hearing aids. Because think about how many physicians' voices she was having to adjust for on the job. I mean, you name it. And you know how physicians do their dictation, right? like walking down the hallway outside with the wind, accents, eating. So we had a lot to adjust for, which is why we ended up going with this solution. But that's probably my most unique use for this, was for that case. So we have other inline solutions. So we might use an actual plug-in inline amplifier. This would be more for a moderate loss. It allows us to adjust the volume and the tone. My other favorite one is right down here, another old looking one. It only has volume, no tone, but it has a lot of volume and is a very crisp, clear sound. And at $40 or $35.99, it's a very affordable solution for people. So we look at those inline amplifiers first, and then we will take a look at what kinds of office phones or home-based phones, either cordless or landline or desk type phones, what are those solutions? We take a look at the caption phone options. So we've got a picture of first the older CapTel and then a newer one down here below. And Cindy actually has several of these on display. When you guys do your tour, you'll be able to see some of those phone solutions. But more often than not, we end up looking at cell solutions these days, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. You're not going to find that in the catalog. Basically, it's the Walker inline. But I do have my cards, and you can always, I encourage you guys to take those, and if you have questions on technology on it, let me know. And then we have the really oldie but goodie over here, a smaller TTY than what we saw earlier. So, I probably recommended, I actually have recommended one of those in the last year and a half. I can't even remember why, but I did. So, and then we'll talk about relay as we go through. But how CapTel works, or caption phone services. CapTel is a brand name. Caption telephones are the actual category. So what happens is a call is made, and it is routed through a caption service. And those caption operators actually listen to what's said. They immediately revoice it into voice recognition software, which then sends it in text format to the person on the other end. And this can be done using land-based phones, like the two up here. And then it can be done right on your cell phone with an app. And then it can also be done on the computer with your desk phone. So there's a variety of options out there. And I would say the accuracy is, say, 96% or so. You're always going to have poor phone connections, poor speakers, and you're always going to have that a little bit. What? Accents, yep. Ironically, back in the dark ages, there used to be a thing called voice carryover. And so you didn't have the immediate transcription, using voice. So it would be like, hey, Nancy, how are you today? Go ahead. And then she would type to what she wanted to say on the TTY, and it would come back. So there was delays there. And now this came along, the caption phone came along, and I hear people complaining about that nanosecond delay. And I'm like, I just want to pull out the old system and say, try that. Very true. All right. So electronic communication. We've all become very fluent in this. It's our emails, it's our instant messaging, it's our video relay, and there's video interpreting, and I'll flush out the definitions of those two here shortly. People still use video phones, but more and more, they're just connecting directly using webcams, either built-in or external, and using regular over-the-counter instant message and video messaging programs. So real quick, VRS versus VRI. I always hear a lot of questions about the differences between these two. So Relay services are, as a category, provide telecommunications between a hearing person and a deaf person. That's what they were designed for. So someone who's deaf wants to order pizza, they used to go through relay. And now we can do that video. So they can sign their whatever they want to have. A relay interpreter will then translate it for the pizza place down the way. All done video. It's telecommunications. And that's the purpose, that's where the funding comes from. It's free. Then we have video remote interpreting. So it might be the two of us having a meeting face to face, and you're deaf, I don't sign, I need an interpreter. So I pull my computer over, it's got a webcam, I hire that interpreter, they watch him sign, they voice it to me, whatever I say, they sign to him. That's interpreting services. It's in the same room. Costs money, just like hiring an interpreter here. That's the difference. And believe me, they will figure out pretty quickly if you are trying to make a phone call in the same room with someone to skirt the fee. And they will hang up and they will disconnect. So video relay interpreting is a fee-based service, just like in person. But video relay services, for the purpose of telecommunications, is free. All right, and then this is just a picture of that.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the price of the remote interpreting?
It will vary on the provider. Mm-hmm.
Is there like a
But
rate?
I don't really,
Because I know in remote areas,
I wouldn't want to speak on that.
a rate, no,
Yeah.
just based on the,
Yeah, I mean, it's going to range from several dozens of dollars to maybe 150, maybe more.
And
Don't quote me on that.
what's nice is you can do it as minimal as 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So with face-to-face interpreters, typically you have a 2-hour minimum and port-to-port. Yes. So video remote is ideal because you're only having to book for that short amount of time without port-to-port travel. Mm-hmm. But you do need good internet connections. Mm-hmm. So there's that. All right. So what I've got on the screen here are just a couple ways to talk about using our phones to do video relay and video interpreting. So up here we've got 5 apps that show the different ways that we can communicate using apps. On the upper left we've got Hamilton, and I'm going to be talking about these a little bit more. Hamilton is how you would do your captioned telephone services right on your phone. So I have an app on here, and because I'm Verizon, as long as I have Wi-Fi, because I have to have Wi-Fi and my cell with Verizon. You've all seen that commercial where the guy's on the phone and he needs to order like an anniversary present for somebody, and then he realizes he's on a Verizon network and there's no wireless internet. He can't do online shopping and talk to his wife at the same time because it can't do voice and data. But AT&T you can, so I think it was an ad for AT&T. So, but if I'm connected to the wireless here, and if I need to make a caption call, I can do that right on this phone through my app. So I can enter the number where I want to call, it's going to route through, I'm going to use my speakerphone, and then I will read what Linda says back to me right on my phone, right here. Down below we've got Sorensen, which will also do a similar service. You can also do interpreting using Sorensen, and same with Purple and Z, and then Skype is your standard video instant message app.
I had an issue a year or two ago about me wanting to be able to demo, I think Sorensen said
Yes.
you have to be deaf.
Yes, Sorensen, you must be, yes,
So how, when
you have to show them.
can one of these other services take that place so someone can demo that?
if it's Linda will hook you up. Because these services, the video relay, those are funded by our government, and they're designed to provide telecommunication access. And so they do always have to verify that the person using them has a hearing loss and that needs to use it. And so when you go to set up an account for any of these, either you lie and you say that you have a hearing loss, or you are with your consumer who does, and they're setting up the account. But Sorensen will not give a video phone even to an office that needs to communicate with someone who.
I mean, how ridiculous. I'm married to a deaf person. I want to be able to sign, from my devices.
Right, yeah, and you can't.
I
I Linda knows, yes. So, yes. So I have an audiogram that shows a 60 dB loss in my left ear. All right. All right. So I just have a image up here I think is kind of fun. It's almost certain that the phone you use now is bigger than the one you used a decade ago. All right. So, and it tends to get the right. So now all the cool people have flip phones. Have you noticed that? It's like the new cool thing. Really. All right, so we're going to breeze through signaling here. There's several different models of signaling systems out there. These are the most common. We've got central alert, silent call, sonic alert, alert master. But these are systems that are designed to alert someone to sounds, any sound in their environment, from a baby crying to the phone to the door to room noise to smoke and fire, really weather alerts, anything. All right, so on the screen I've got a variety of images that show the different ones that are out there. There are pros and cons with each and every system. I have my favorites, or favorite currently, and that is the central alert system. And so this is what the alarm, these are all based on like a central unit and then receivers that are in various areas of your home or your workplace to provide notification. So for central alert, this is the alarm clock, and it will alert you with either a lamp plugged into it or the strobe light that's on it, and that's just to get up in the morning. Or if you're lucky, you plug your bed shaker in. I had a woman who sneakily did this to her husband. Like, he wasn't home when we set everything up. She's like, can't wait for tomorrow morning. The bed's going to go. Oh, okay. Have fun with that. And I learned you always call it a shaker, especially when you're presenting to middle schoolers. It's not a vibrator.
Yeah.
It's a shaker.
I have a question about that.
Yep.
I tried to set that up last week at a gentleman's home who only has one phone jack.
Yep.
And he has it hooked up to his video phone.
Okay. We can chat at that later,
Oh,
if that's
okay.
right. Because I don't want to get into that really finite.
Oh.
We're running out of time. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm happy to help troubleshoot that when we're done.
Okay.
All right. So with this system, so this is in my bedroom, and if I have a landline, I can plug it in the back, and then it will alert me to the phone going. I can have a weather alert set up, so it would tell me if there's a weather emergency. I can have a baby crier set up, so if the baby's crying, it will alert me. I can have it set up for an audio alarm, so it would alert me to that. But what if I'm not in the bedroom? Then I need the little remote boxes that go throughout the house. And so these will then flash, and they can make a sound, and you can choose whether to have sound or not, if someone can benefit from that. So then I'll know throughout my house if something's going on, or if I'm out in my wood shop, and I can have a pager. Now I use these on the work site too. So the pager will then vibrate, and I'll know, oh, I left my alarm clock on in the bedroom, I better go turn it off. The main reason I use this device more than any now is because of the cell signaler. So I put my cell phone on. If I get a text message or a phone call, the vibration of that sets this off, which then sets all the other devices off. So if I'm waiting for a call from my boss, maybe I'm waiting for a job interview or what have you, I'm not going to miss that call as it comes through.
Can that be placed in a remote location?
Yeah, these can be anywhere in the house. And I can charge my, I can charge it on there too,
If your alerting system's in the house and you're out in your workshop?
if it's within a certain range, and if it's not a metal building. Pole sheds. That's usually what shops are. Yeah.
My question actually relates to that.
Mhm.
So I've been hesitant to suggest that somebody use one of those pagers too far away from their house because I haven't really tested the range. Have you just tested how far those will work?
I did one in a barn. Trying to,
Far away that was from
I am really bad at that
Okay.
distance part, but I would say, I'm just looking out the window out here, the barn probably would have been the parking lot across the street. The cars that I can see through that door. And we were able to get it. But it was a wood barn and a wood house, and it was like the transmitter was on the porch area, you know. So, and yeah, so it's really a lot of trial and error to see if it's going to work, and what are the ramifications if it doesn't? You know, is it a life critical thing that they know, or is it a convenience? And balancing out that, you know. Like, did the ventilator go off on the caregiver and that's why they need to know, or is it just they're going to miss a text message from their cousin? And the differences on there. So a variety of solutions are out there. Yes.
But with the issue with distance, I noticed that you could buy a second monitor unit, and that could add a little bit more distance, a little bit more strength to boost the signal.
Yep. Yeah, you can add like almost like a repeater. Yep. All right. So I'm going to whiz through here. I'm going to touch briefly on smart technology and what it's doing for us and how it's impacting hearing loss. The use of smartwatches has really been increasing for their notification abilities. I personally can tell you that I would never even know my phone is ringing, even though I pick a ringtone I can kind of hear. So I rely on my watch to alert me to my phone or to notifications on that. So I've used it several times with recommendations for consumers where they need to be made aware of things. And so also there's the use of our smart homes and using our apps to control things. So things like lights. Maybe someone is coming home, they have a hearing loss and they're concerned about safety as they go into their home. They want their lights on before they get there. So we can use apps to control that. We can use it to control our, you know, our environmental systems within the homes. We can set up, let my interpreter catch up. We can use it to set up if this, then that scenarios. How many are familiar with if this, then that? The app, yes. So that means that when I pull into my driveway, the GPS in my phone tells my app to turn my lights on in the living room so I'm not walking into the dark. Okay. I personally use my phone now to feed my cats remotely with a camera and a little feeder. So home technology can be fun or it can be useful or both. So we just don't want to forget about that use of smart technology as it continues to evolve. All right. In the PowerPoint, and Mason, you'll have everyone's email, right?
Yes.
So that I can send this so that they can actually get to these links?
Yes.
Okay. So under Microsoft and Apple, there are numerous if this, then that. Yeah.
So I have your email address if you signed up online. If you didn't sign up online, if you want access to these apps, and I'm going to have another presentation coming out to you, please stop by and give us your email address if you did not supply it during registration or if you didn't sign up online. Thank you.
Perfect. So there's a lot of features that we need to think about when it comes to using our computers and how it applies to hearing loss. And both Microsoft and Apple have a great outline of all of their accessibility things. It might be something as simple as making sure you have a visual notification when things come in, like an email or a notice of an instant message. These are also good just to run through if you are having trouble with distractibility, so how to turn off that type of notification in case you are someone who needs to focus more and you don't want all of that visual alerting going on. So you can use it for both sides. But those links are in there. And then through Google Access, there's an accessibility guide available through Google that will outline the different extensions and apps that can apply to their browser. We actually operate out of a Google Apps for Education account, and so there's numerous features within those, within Google and within Chrome, that can apply for our accessibility. And then I have two handouts. One was duplicated for you, and that's the Outreach Apps handout that is on there. And that is not all encompassing. It's just the ones most frequently used. If you guys have one that you love and it's related to hearing loss, I'd welcome you guys to send me an email with it so I can add it to my list. And then Tina Childress, it's more education focused, but she also has and maintains a whole website related to apps and hearing loss and education. And she is from Illinois. And then I'm just going to highlight one or two in our last couple minutes here. Some of the more frequent ones that I will use, number one is Dragon Dictate, free app, excellent dictation. So if your consumer is in a situation where they're having trouble understanding someone, all they have to do is hit that button, the other person speaks into it, and it's going to translate that into text for them. Now you do have to have connectivity. So you either have to have a data or you need to be in Wi-Fi. But the accuracy of this app is outstanding. The other one that I want to highlight for sure is up here on the it's App Writer, and I think I've got it on the list. It's the it's kind of that flip screen with the keyboard that you see on the upper right. And how that works, is anyone familiar with the Light Writer from years ago? Okay, same concept, but it's an app now. No more extra device. This allows someone to just type on that keyboard, and then you are able to read it right side up. And I love this app because it's really great in a pinch. There's another product out there called the UB Duo, which is two devices. They look like little mini laptops. I'm not a fan. They're expensive. They're about $2,000. And that's the whole concept of it. It allows someone to type. It's almost like a TTY, but it's wireless. So I type on the one, and it pops up on the one that the unit sits in front of Linda.
Helped Sam's Club get that one time.
Yeah.
They were interested in facilitating that kind of thing. So that was the choice at the time.
Yep. Well, and then some employers still choose that device. The most recent one of the UB Duo I did was at a Quick Trip manufacturing plant. And the consumer, that's what she wanted in the break room. It was a young girl. Most of her coworkers were older women. And so we demonstrated the option of using an iPad or a UB Duo, which is the two devices. And they felt that there was such less learning curve with the keyboard set up and the comfort level of the staff. So DVR and Quick Trip supported that device in the break room. So anybody that walked in could communicate quickly with that, an employee who's deaf. It worked great.
Have you heard of text-speech talking keyboard?
Probably.
For somebody who doesn't have
Their voice.
ability?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually I didn't even cover the ones that are related to voice output. So Speak It is still my favorite.
Speak it.
Yep, and that's $1.99, $2.99 now. I think it went up $1.
Oh, I'm not, this is not advanced.
Oh, okay. All right. And then just real quick, some non-techie tech. GASP, yes, sometimes solutions are not that complicated. It can be as simple as a little mirror on the computer monitor So someone sees a coworker coming up from behind and they're not startled. Might be some sound panels placed around a room to dampen the acoustics. Might be an alerting light. Might be a bicycle mirror because someone's at a workstation and someone will come up from behind. This gives them all of that viewpoint. I worked with somebody that he worked in a anodizing aluminum plant, which is full of like high risk acid. You know, they dip the metal in it and all that. He really needed to be aware of what was around him. And so his shield, we outfitted with those bicycle light mirrors so he can see it. And then just mirrors for passive travel. And then there's always strategies. It's amazing what reminding people that it's okay to, you know, write a note or speak one at a time in a meeting, take turns. Crazy what that'll do to help someone with a hearing loss understand. It's crazy. It's nuts. All right. So the final pages you'll see are just kind of the decision process on what you want to think about when you're looking at technology for someone or helping them. And then last slide, I promise. I'll get us back on time. So this is, we've got our website. So outreach services, we provide consultations, programs, services for ages 3 to 21. And so we are free to school districts. We work with school districts, families, students, and our referrals do come through the school district. But for those of you that are familiar with what I used to do with technology assessments, those now are available free through my work with outreach. So ages 3 to 21, we can come in, we can work directly with that school or the student and identify those solutions. I'm doing a lot of work with the transition age, with DVR counselors, to help identify the tools those students will need. But we also have a conference November 10th and 11th, and that will be in Appleton. Friday the 10th is for professionals, and Saturday is for families. So I do have some catalogs of equipment. I don't sell anything, but I use the ones from here, Wisconsin, because it's the most comprehensive, and they're from Wisconsin. And there's some CapTel brochures, and then my cards are over here as well. So if you have any other questions. Otherwise, I probably didn't give out enough chocolate. Otherwise, I really appreciate your time and your attention.
I worked with a woman who didn't know she had a TELECOIL, and when she asked her audiologist to turn it on, he actually conducts classes with new TELECOIL users, and they offered her that after she asked for it, you know, but there's maybe some audiologists that do that.
Nice. That was nice to hear, yeah, that he actually does classes on. Yep, perfect. And that's what we'd like to see. We'd love to make sure every hearing aid user has an active, usable TELECOIL. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura. Fantastic. All right.